Hello everyone, I'm Cierra Franklin and welcome to HR 760. And today I will be presenting my case study presentation. Today we will talk my strategy in regard to the physician shortage in Windsor. Let's go ahead and get started. So let's dive right in. Recommendations for improvement. First, we have to consider that what is the issue at hand? We are in need of 55 physicians, and 15% of our current staff is over 65. We have to consider that most of the current doctors are at retirement age or are close to retirement age. Therefore, we need to recruit younger doctors. How are we going to go about improvement? Let's go ahead and start with creation of a website. As mentioned in the case study, there isn't a website. The director needs to set up a website to garner virtual foot traffic. Remember, people are on their phones constantly. I know for certain I get data that just tells me how much I'm on my phone, and typically it's between 5 to 7 hours a day. So most people are on their phones constantly. So it's very, very important to create a website for people to be able to browse and learn more about the organizational culture and why they should be compelled to join. Social media. The creation of social media is super important. But with your social media, you want to make it interactive and robust. So maybe considering having a live at 9 for interested potentials to get more information on the city of Windsor, and then have current physicians come in and engage and share their experiences while working as a physician, or create a coffee and conversations virtual social media event to discuss with prospective candidates on to ask them what they're looking for in a workplace. Very valuable tool to do because it also gives you it's an informal survey that gives you feedback to be able to use in the long run for your recruitment strategy, and also be able to incorporate some of those components into your total rewards plans. Now let's talk about geographic areas. Geographic area is extremely important. This can be a make or break factor. However, it's never the buy all be all. It's all about marketing and the way in which you use what you have to your advantage. So we know that Windsor is a mid-sized city. It is located on the border of the US and Canada. Although in the case study it mentions that this has created a weakness, I think it's all about the way in which we're marketing it. This could be a selling point. Windsor, for example, in one of your job ads, you could mention Windsor is close to Detroit. So feel free to catch a Detroit Lions football game and shortly thereafter return back to Windsor. So again, you want to highlight your geographic area, and remember, if something is a con, it can always be made into a pro. You want to give yourself a competitive edge. If the geographic location presents an issue, you want to create a perk, and maybe the perk would be an increased salary for physicians. So that's something to think through. Also, thinking through mobile recruiting. Mobile recruiting is extremely important. Consider creating postings on social media such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, IG, even take to TikTok to make creative content. Also consider Loop. Let's face it, people are on their mobile devices all day. The strategy has to include an on-the-go component to fit in with everyday life. Spicing it up with Loop. Loop basically injects gamification into one's mobile recruitment strategy through interactive surveys, quizzes, and competitions. It makes recruiting fun, and on top of it, top talent gets interested into your company at the same time. Plus, you can have live leaderboards, which allows candidates to compete with one another for your attention, or rather for the top score. So just another great alternative to use. And then also, don't leave out the LinkedIn mobile app. Last but not least, you want to recruit younger talent. And the way in which we're going to go about this is just creating opportunities for more work-life balance, creating more employee perks, ensuring that our diversity, equity, and inclusion plan is airtight. Moving along, let's talk about some interview questions. Interview questions are a great way for you to have an introspective look at the candidates in which are applying to fill the position. But also, this is a great way to make sure that your talent, that their missions and values align with the organization's missions and values, right? So here are a few questions that I would ask the prospects during the interview. Number one, what interests you in working as a physician here? This is extremely important. You want to understand the motivation behind them applying to work there. Number two, are there specific areas of medicine that you're passionate about? This helps with placement just to understand where they might be a best fit. Number three, what is one goal that you would like to accomplish in the next year? This allows them to orient themselves with the future and start thinking about what it is they want to do while they're employed with the organization, or if they even see themselves working a part of the organization. Number four, how do you typically plan to keep current? How do you typically or plan to keep current in your medical training? This is extremely important. When building a learning organization, you have to have applicants that are dedicated to the lifelong learning process. And this is just a question to ensure that they are, and just to kind of see where they are on that spectrum if they're not completely fully dedicated to it. Also, how would you describe some of your work habits? Work habits are extremely important and determines the energy of the team, so to speak. It's going to determine how well they're going to work with their team on collaborative efforts. What are some of your interests outside of medicine? Again, it's going back to the issue of creating work-life balance, because that's so extremely important. And then asking them what sorts of patients do they work with. This ties back into diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want to create an inviting atmosphere. We want physicians that value diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then how do they cope with stress? Because working as a physician is no easy feat, and there has to be some type of work-life balance. So understanding how they cope with their stress is very important. Now let's talk about our recruitment strategy. So when devising my recruitment strategy, I decided you need compelling job descriptions. You want your job ad to be extremely engaging. You want to start with the hook. You want to talk about your accomplishments. Then you want to end in posing a question. Are you ready to join our team? Or are you ready to get started? Or are you ready to make the next milestone? Whatever the case may be, you want to have a compelling job description. Also, you want to use social media to showcase the organizational culture. Maybe offering an opportunity to show a day in the life of a physician, of a current physician. That would be extremely valuable because it would give prospective candidates an inside look at what their day could look like. Also, you want to provide perks. Mental health days, mentorship opportunities, lifestyle spending accounts, and flexible schedules. You definitely want to have these things in place because it overall helps with the rate of retention, and it also helps with recruitment. Increasing pay to compete. It's hard to compete when you don't compare. If you're already at a disadvantage through your geographic location, it's extremely important to give yourself a competitive edge, and pay is always a competitive edge. Build coalition with the new administration for the satellite medical school. You want to start a pipeline partnership. Never underestimate the power of coalition. Coalition and relationship building will take you a long way. And it just kind of secures the pipeline in the future, and will continue to increase the incoming applicants. So last but not least, personal is key. Never forget the value of personal touches. You want to do personal touch emails, thank you notes. This demonstrates that you are hospitable and that you're personable, right? So you want to really, through your personal contact, you want to really showcase that, hey, this place, Windsor, is the place for me. From start to finish, they have done everything. They've been extremely kind, personable, and hospitable. So it also speaks to a location's identity. Well, in this case, brand identity. Itinerary for candidates. Itinerary for candidates are so extremely important because it allows you to know what to expect, but it also allows the physician to know what to expect. So one of the candidates was set to arrive on June the 3rd. What would happen is we would already have their arrival time in place, their flight information. So for example, I would be there to greet one of the doctors at the airport and follow him or her to the hotel. I would have rental car information. So for example, we're going to say Hertz. We would have the rental car confirmation ready. We would also have the hotel accommodation. So for in this instance, we would say the Sheraton. Um, and let's move on down. Once they're settled in, we would say about 3:45. We could provide the doctor with the community tour. So we would escort her after the community tour back to the hotel around 5:45. One of our other physicians or current physicians could meet the new physician or prospective physician in the lobby of the hotel, and we would join them for dinner at 6 p.m. We would all, the reservation should be made, and everyone would join and have a conversation and just enjoy dinner. And we would adjourn for the evening, excuse me. So we would reconvene the next morning and just give the doctor a tour of the facility and introduce him or her to the providers and the staff. At 9, around 11, they would be able to take a look at the department in which they could potentially be working in. At 12, they would have a lunch break. At 1, they would have a tour of the clinic. 1:30, they would be able to possibly meet the CEO and other pertinent leaders that they would be working with. And then by 3 o'clock, they would have a formal interview, and afterwards they would wrap up and they would be able to return to their hotel, and we would send them off with a care package. So that is what our itinerary would look like. So let's talk referrals and recommendations. So going back to my recommendations, I stated earlier that the biggest issue is here we want to create a pipeline for young talent. And the top candidate from the 3 candidates would be Dr. Lisa Simpson. Lisa is a young doctor. She's certified, she's ready to go in that regard, but also she's a younger doctor and she has a 3 and a 4-year old. So she's definitely new, she's fresh, she's vibrant, and I think that would definitely make for a good candidate. And that's what we're looking for. She fulfills that qualification. So recommendations, my next steps for Dr. Muhammad would be we want to work with him. We want to stay connected with him and keep him in the recruitment pool until he's certified. I mean, his resume was extremely impressive. He just needs to go through the certification process. In addition, we would allow him to shadow certified talent to maintain that strong relationship with him. Again, we want to keep him in that talent pool. And last but not least, make a recommendation to a local hospital asking for openings, asking them about openings for healthcare administration positions that he could potentially work, to be able to pay for the certification. And then we would loop him right back around and push him and give him a recommendation towards the Board of Medicine, for them to make their final selection. So that is what I have today for my HR presentation. Feel free to ask any questions, drop questions for me. I am more than happy to ask, and thank you all so much for tuning in.